The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Pause for that recording. So welcome to the informational webinar for the Open Federal Funding Opportunity named Marine Carbon Dioxide Removal, or mCDR, Research and Development for Assessing Large-Scale Carbon Removal and Local-Scale Ocean Acidification Mitigation. My name is Gabby Kitsch. I'm a Knaus Fellow with the Ocean Acidification Program and have been closely involved with the development of this NOFO during my fellowship year. The NOAA Ocean Acidification Program, as well as the rest of our funding partners, are thrilled to announce this exciting federal funding opportunity and look forward to providing more information to you potential applicants today. As a reminder, applications will close on February 28th of 2023. So the agenda for today, the webinar will cover the information presented in the full funding opportunity. It's 33 pages, so we're going to give you a nice overview here today. That will include the NOFO overview, eligibility, full proposal requirements, evaluation criteria, and the Q&A. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available for later viewing on the NOAA Ocean Acidification Program YouTube link, which will be dropped in the chat here. Thank you, Erica, for doing that. We'll also be able to answer any questions that you have today, and we'll use those questions that you asked to formulate a frequently asked questions for this opportunity, which will be available on the Ocean Acidification Program website. We welcome questions in the Q&A box or the chat at any point during our presentation here today. So this notice of funding opportunity, an overview to give you all, is that the NOAA Ocean Acidification Program, on behalf of the National Oceanographic Partnership Program, or NOPP, is soliciting proposals focused on A, reducing uncertainty about the extent and durability of marine carbon dioxide removal, or CDR, understanding associated co-benefits, including ocean acidification mitigation and risks of marine CDR. And, hold on one second, sorry, just having some interesting technical issues here. But that is okay, we will keep going. Understanding associated co-benefits, including ocean acidification mitigation and risks of marine CDR, and the science needed to build regulatory frameworks for both testing and scaling of marine CDR approaches. Okay, perfect. All set here now. The knowledge of this NOPP proposal will assist in the verification or the invalidation of hypotheses regarding marine CDR in order to make informed decisions regarding a potential scaled negative carbon industry. Okay. So this NOPP solicitation is an effort of many funding agencies, and we'll now take a moment to introduce the program representatives from these agencies as well as these agencies' missions. So to start, we'll start with my home base, the NOAA Ocean Acidification Program. If you all want to come on camera and introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Yeah, and Gabby, the slide is showing up oddly right now. I don't know. Oh, there it goes. So I don't know, it's jumping around, but I think it'll be fine. Hi, my name is Libby Jewett. I'm director of the Ocean Acidification Program in NOAA, and I've been leading this effort to develop this funding opportunity, and this is connected to the idea that marine CDR could actually be a mitigation tool for ocean acidification. So that's kind of the driving influence for the involvement of the Ocean Acidification Program. I'm also thrilled to have so many federal partners partnering in this effort. It wouldn't have been possible without all of the others who will be shortly introducing themselves. And I also wanted to introduce Jessica Cross, whose name you'll see on the NOFO as one of the technical expert And then Erica Ombres also is named there and is our lead federal program officer. I don't know, Jessica, if you wanted to say anything or if we'll move on. Oh. No, okay. So who's next?
So next we have NOAA's Global Ocean Monitoring and Observing Program, or GOMO. Kathy, if you want to come on the screen.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm Kathy Tedesco. I'm a program manager in NOAA's Global Ocean Monitoring and Observing Program. And the mission of GOMO is to provide and support high quality global ocean observations, I should say in situ observations, and research to improve our scientific understanding and inform society about the ocean's role in environmental change. Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy. Do we have a representative from NOAA's U.S. Integrated Ocean Observing Program, or USIUS? Gabrielle? I do not see Gabrielle on the line. We'll circle back to her if she pops on, but we're glad to have IUS as a partner in this. If we have our representatives from the Department of Energy's Fossil Energy and Carbon Management Office introduce themselves.
Yes, this is Jeff Summers. I'm in FECM, and I'm the program manager for emission control technology, and I also represent DOE on the London Protocol, which, for those of you who are not familiar or maybe familiar, deals with, I like to say, all activities ocean, and ocean acidification, ocean dumping, and disposal figure very prominently within that. And we just put out a white paper on ocean geoengineering and the effects. There are 4 areas that we're looking at, from algae to micro and macronutrient additions to ocean brightening, putting in, I guess, silver particles and things like that. And they just released the IMO just put out a press release, 2 or 3 page press release highlighting the position and the urgency that this topic needs. And this will be the flavor of the day, so to speak, at the scientific group meeting in Morocco come March. So this is a very, very high priority item.
Thank you so much. Do we have a representative from the Department of Energy, Water, Power, and Technologies Office? I do not see Carrie on the line either, but we're also very grateful to have them as a partner in this opportunity. We will move on to the Department of Navy's Office of Naval Research.
Hi there. Sorry, can't get on. I can't get on the video here with the computer I have. My name's Heather Wallauer, and I'm with Office of Naval Research. It's a Department of Defense office tasked with identifying science and technology solutions to address Navy and Marine Corps needs. We have a 2030 initiative to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions environmentally, and happy to be a part of this program. And I head up at ONR a direct air capture and blue carbon removal technology program, and our focus is on also, and here with this program, to utilize that the carbon that we get from the ocean that could be useful for the Navy. Over.
Thanks, Heather. I'm sorry that the slides went rogue during your presentation. Do we have our partners from the National Science Foundation, the Chemical Oceanography Program? Hetty, if you want to jump on the line.
I'm muted. I'm Hetty Edmonds with NSF's Chemical Oceanography Program. Our research portfolio includes the ocean carbon cycle in all forms and at all scales, including foundational research underpinning a variety of mCDR strategies.
Thank you. Francis, our philanthropic partner, ClimateWorks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Frances from ClimateWorks Foundation. We are a platform for philanthropy to innovate and accelerate climate solutions at scale. At the carbon removal program, which I am part of, we work both in the US and globally on a range of terrestrial and marine CDR opportunities to support responsible research and policy. And we have worked with NOAA and other interagency partners in the last iteration of the NOFO last year, and we look forward to partnering with you guys this year.
Thanks so much, Frances. So that captures our partners for this call, and I just want to double check that the slides look okay before we move on. Oh, yeah, Erica, I'm going to read that out loud. This is from Carrie. She's unable to mute herself here, but she's the representative from the Water Powers Technologies Office. She's pleased to be a part of this NOFO, and they're interested in how marine energy from ocean waves, tides, currents, and salinity, thermal, and pressure gradients can be used to power mCDR approaches and/or the monitoring of these approaches. Thank you, Carrie, for typing that in, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Gabby, our NOPP program people might want to say something.
Oh, of course. Thank you, Libby. NOPP, Jack and Chris, can you come on the camera and introduce yourselves? That'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Chris Beaverson here, and I support NOAA's NOPP, our National Oceanographic Partnership Program Manager, Jeremy Wyrick. The mission and goals of NOPP is to facilitate partnerships across the federal space, as well as engage academia and industry on high priority ocean research needs. And we look forward to participating in this solicitation.
Thank you so much, Chris. I think that officially covers all of our partners, and we will continue on with our presentations at this point. So to continue our overview of this funding opportunity, proposed research must increase the understanding of various aspects of marine carbon dioxide removal to reduce the uncertainty about the extent and durability of carbon removal, associated co-benefits and risks, and/or contribute to the regulatory frameworks needed for both testing and implementation of these approaches. For more detail about the actual opportunity, the funding agencies anticipate making about 10 to 20 awards depending on the availability of funding. And the awards of any size are encouraged and amounts up to $2 million US. In other words, there is no minimum award amount or award floor. However, we do note that projects for community engagement only will be awarded up to $100,000 per project. Projects must include funding for PIs and co-PIs to attend 2 in-person all PI meetings, and applicants may propose projects that range from 1 to 4 years, although all funds will be distributed at once. So there are 7 main priorities outlined in this funding opportunity, which were collaboratively developed by all of the funding partners that were just introduced. So these include developing and piloting methods for marine CDR strategies, which are identified or novel approaches that result in local co-benefits for ocean acidification, marine ecosystem conservation, and/or in situ conversion of new energy sources or metals or other materials recovery. 2, systems level analysis of the validity and feasibility of scaled up detectable marine CDR approaches. And 3, to develop and apply high resolution Earth system and/or regional ocean models to better resolve how and where natural ocean carbon cycle processes and reservoirs could be leveraged for long-term carbon storage, to evaluate ecosystem relevant changes and impacts, and/or predict and verify local scale pertinent ocean carbon and carbonate chemistry changes and ocean acidification mitigation from marine CDR pilot projects. Our priorities are continued on this page, and I will read them aloud just for completeness. Our 4th priority is to develop and deploy and/or test in situ ocean observing methods and technologies to enable high precision detection and carbonate chemistry dynamics and evaluation of the efficacy of marine carbon dioxide strategies during targeted field deployment. 5, applying and evaluating and optimizing the use of marine energy technology that converts ocean waves, tides, currents, and or other gradients, as Carrie mentioned, salinity, thermal or pressure, into usable energy to power any aspects of a marine carbon dioxide removal approach. So proposed projects can include marine energy generation for the operation of mCDR directly, or associated supporting system, existing technologies adapted for monitoring, reporting, and verification, or MRV, and or a project proposed to meet other priorities outlined in this section here. 6, addressing the foundational and or approach-specific research priorities outlined in the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine's report and research strategy for ocean-based carbon dioxide removal and sequestration. And or lastly, 7, convening workshops and other community building activities to enhance societal engagement, understand community priorities for and concerns about marine carbon dioxide removal, and or developed government aspects of and permitting pathways of marine CDR field deployments. So engagement of multiple stakeholders is a prerequisite of this NOPP solicitation. Therefore, each proposing team must be comprised of participants from at least 2 of the following 3 sectors. So the first one is academia. Secondly, private sector, which includes non-governmental organizations or NGOs. Private sector partners could include companies developing marine CDR techniques, but also private industry like aquaculture industry or other industries which would benefit from potential ocean acidification mitigation. And thirdly, government partners, including federal, tribal, state, and local partners. And we will note that international collaborators may join as partners, but cannot serve as the primary PI and cannot receive funds directly. So we can get into the full proposal requirements at this point. In total, there are 15 elements of the full proposal detailed in the full funding opportunity. In this webinar, we'll break them down into 3 different categories. Firstly, the project narrative, second, the budget narrative, and thirdly, other required forms. Under the project narrative umbrella, there are 2 required shorter format documents. The first is the summary cover page, which can be 1 page at maximum. This cover page should include the project name, starting with this set acronym, which is mCDR 2023, the lead PI's name, affiliation, and contact information, such as address, email, and phone, all co-PI's name or names, affiliations, and email addresses, as well as the requested funding amounts for each fiscal year. The second shorter format document is the 1-page abstract, or the project summary. And the header of this document should include the proposal title, the institution or institutions, and investigator or investigators. So the total proposed cost and budget period. The purpose of this 1-page document or abstract is to summarize key points, including the problem, the rationale, the scientific objectives or hypotheses, and a brief summary of this work. So this element in the proposal is used to compare proposals quickly. In addition to the shorter format documents, which are now shown in gray here, the majority of the proposal will consist of the project description, which can be no more than 20 pages in total. The project description has 3 main sections. The first is the proposed research section, which includes identifying the priorities being addressed, describing the scientific objectives, research activities, and/or technological development in relation to the present state of knowledge, discussing how the proposed project lends value to the program goals, and identifying the function of each PI. In addition, if a permitting plan is included in the proposal, which will be discussed in the coming slides, then you should include a contingency plan in the section in case any permits are not able to be obtained. In this section, if applicable, the proposal must include a monitoring, reporting, and verification, or MRV plan, as well as an environmental monitoring plan. For example, if you propose a piloting or experimental study, then you must include these elements. However, if an applicant proposes a study that's only proposing modeling work, then that study would not need to include these plans, the MRV and the environmental monitoring plan. If you're unsure if these elements are going to be required in your proposal, please reach out to Jessica Cross and/or myself. Our emails are listed here, and if somebody could place them in the chat as well, that would be incredibly helpful. The second element of this project description is the data management plan, which is limited to 2 pages in total, and there are explicit instructions for the data management plan in the full funding opportunity. The third section is a statement of diversity and inclusion, which again, more details about that section are listed in the full announcement, and this is limited to 1 page. On this slide, we list all the required elements related to the project narrative umbrella, which includes those that we've previously discussed. So the 1-page summary cover page, the 1-page abstract, and the project description. And other required elements include a biographical sketch, which is limited to 2 pages per investigator. So lead PIs and co-PIs must have their own biographical sketch. And within those biographical sketch, please include a listing of all professional and academic credentials and mailing addresses, up to 5 publications that are closely related to the proposed project, and up to 5 other significant publications. Other documents required by applicants include a list of current and pending support, a 2-page maximum list of accomplishment from prior federal support, and this is for lead PIs and co-PIs, a total of 2 pages. A milestone chart which provides the timelines for major tasks during the proposed projects and includes permitting timelines when applicable. References cited, including in-text citations, a list of collaborators, both US and international, for each PI, co-PI, postdoc, etc., that might be working on this project, and that's in Excel format. And finally, a critically important required environmental compliance materials. So the environmental compliance materials section is where applicants proposing piloting and/or experimental research of any kind will include any existing permits as well and/or a permitting plan. If the project is being proposed in international waters, you must also include permits and/or a permitting plan. So looking at all these elements in terms of which have page limits and which do not, we can see that the summary cover page, the abstract project summary, the project description, biographical sketch for PIs and co-PIs, and the accomplishment from prior federal support all have page requirements, which are listed here. The milestone chart has a suggested page limit of 1 page. And then the references cited, the current and pending support, the list of collaborators, and the required environmental compliance materials sections have no page limits. The project narrative in total has 10 elements, which we have previously described. Other required elements include the budget narrative. So for each year of the project, a budget justification is required, and each year's budget justification should explain the budget items in sufficient detail to enable review of the appropriateness of the funding requested. So this should include things like travel, personnel, ship time, and other research costs. Again, please note that each proposal must contain travel for all PIs and co-PIs to attend an all PI in-person meeting, likely 3 days in Washington, D.C. And again, these details are in the funding opportunity itself. And these will take place in the first and the third year of your budget. The remaining items on this slide all pertain to the standard forms listed here, and all of these are accessible on Grants Online. So the proposals will be assessed based on 5 total criteria, which will be detailed here in the next 2 slides. The first criteria is the importance or the relevance and applicability of the proposed work. So this criterion ascertains whether there is intrinsic value in the proposed work and or relevance to federal agencies or other federal, regional, state, tribal, or local activities. This includes the importance and relevance to the program priorities listed previously, and the PI's record of making data accessible to and usable by the scientific and resource management communities in the past will be considered when evaluating the importance and relevance of the application. Secondly, the technical and scientific merit will be assessed, and this criteria assesses whether the approach is technically sound, if the methods are appropriate, whether there are clear project goals and objectives, and the effectiveness of the MRB environmental monitoring, permitting, and data management plans. Of course, as we mentioned before, MRB environmental monitoring and permitting plans will be judged only if applicable. Thirdly, the overall qualifications of the applicant. This criteria will ascertain whether the applicants possess the necessary education, experience, training, facilities, and administrative resources to complete the project. This includes the capability of the investigator and the collaborators to complete the proposed work as evidenced by past research accomplishments, previous cooperative work, timely communication, and sharing of findings, data, and other research products, as described in the accomplishments from prior federal support. And all of those elements listed previously will be judged for about 10 percentage points, and the Statement of Diversity and Inclusion, which is explicitly described in the opportunity in section 5BC4E, will be judged for 5 percentage points of this criteria. Our final 2 criteria will be the project costs, which assesses whether the budget is realistic and commensurate with the needs of and time frame of the proposed work. And lastly, the strengths of the partnership. And for purposes of this competition, as a NOPP solicitation, reviewers will evaluate proposals based on 1, whether roles and responsibilities of team members are clearly defined, whether the proposed project is designed to have appropriate participation or support from at least 2 of the following public, so federal, state, and tribal partners, academic, commercial, and or private entities, including NGOs. And thirdly, whether the contribution of those individual partners are substantial and meaningful. So overall, as you navigate your application, we encourage you to stay connected with your resources. We will be posting this webinar on the NOAA Ocean Acidification YouTube channel, as we said before, and we will also be using your questions received during this time to formulate a frequently asked questions section, which will be hosted on the NOAA OAP website. And you can find QR codes here to access either of those pages. Just give you a moment in case you need to capture any of these before moving on. In addition, our partners at CA Consulting have developed a form to assist you in making initial connections between partners. We encourage you to fill out this form if you are willing, if you're trying to identify other partners, and filling out this form is only meant to assist you and is not required. But if you would like to fill out the form, I encourage you to take a screenshot, a capture of that QR code, I'll pause for a moment. Lastly, the link to all of these resources will also be provided in the NOFO shortly on Grants Online. So if you would like to be notified of these changes and other changes to the NOFO, you can subscribe to the opportunity on Grants Online as shown here in the yellow box. Lastly, before we move on to Q&A, we wanted to take the opportunity to highlight other federal opportunities that might be of interest to the Marine CDR community, including this new notice of funding opportunity from NOAA's Technology Partnerships Offices for their small businesses innovation research. And the award and the link is shown here for those interested in checking that out. And secondly, I will turn it over to Simon from ARPA-E to discuss a little more about upcoming opportunities for ARPA-E.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you great.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to just mention this other federal funding opportunity. So at ARPA-E, we have been developing a program concept on developing new technologies for marine carbon dioxide removal, measurement, reporting, and validation specifically. So we're not looking at technologies for mCDR, just how to measure it or how to measure the success of it. And the goals of this new program are to develop new sensors and modeling technology that transforms our ability to measure and predict carbon fluxes in the ocean. And that is with a view to enabling certifiable value for marine CDR in a future carbon market. We think that there's a lot of potential for carbon dioxide, negative emissions industry in the ocean. And the first step is to be able to value some of the technologies so we can do things like insure it and people can invest in it and so on. There's some level of coordination between ARPA-E and this particular funding call. We've been working at the official level behind the scenes to try to leverage each other. This call is more about the research and development of mCDR and implementation of such. We are trying to be complementary here in developing MRV sensing technologies. So we see a lot of promise for dovetailing these two programs at the operational level. So the funding streams are going to remain separate. Just to give you some high-level timeline indicators for our program, our funding opportunity is likely to be published later than this one. We're going to host a Proposers and Industry Day late in January next year. That's going to be in person in Washington, DC, where it's an opportunity to network and to learn more about the program. The funding opportunity will likely be live in early February. We have a unique situation at ARPA-E where once the money's on the table, we cannot really respond to people's questions. So now's the opportunity to ask us about the upcoming program. We will have more information at hand in due course, but at the moment there are some resources at the bottom of the slide. These are hot links that I can provide to anyone if you can't get them from this file. A teaming announcement on our ARPA-E funding opportunities website, data or information from a program development workshop that we hosted in June, including slides regarding program concept, etc. There's our ARPA-E follow or funding opportunity announcement website there, and the points of contact are myself, Simon Freeman, and also my support contractor, Julia Blackburn. So if you would like to come to this industry day or would like more information, please drop us an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. All right, so at this point, we'll now take your questions on the NOFO. So please place your questions in the chat and we will have the representative who can best answer your questions do so. There are actually two places and go to. There's the chat and I believe the Q&A. So you're welcome to place your questions in either place. All right, well, looks like we have quite a few. I will serve as the the question tee up, and I will turn it over to the federal employees on the line to answer the question. So we have a first question. If a CDR technology is strictly deep water or far offshore and unlikely to offer ocean acidification co-benefits, does it put it at a disadvantage compared to others that operate near shore and more likely to have OA co-benefits?
So Gabby, we already provided an answer in there. I don't know if you can see that. So I'll just read it. There are multiple priorities listed in the call, including relevance to and collaboration with marine energy generation, or anything really in the National Academy's report. That's another priority, is to be filling those funding, gaps, research gaps. And so, a number of those are not OA related. So there is an OA mitigation priority, but there's also, there are other priorities that are equally important.
All right, great. So I will focus on the unanswered questions at this point. And one is just regarding a DOE white paper on marine geoengineering. If we could send a link in the chat to that white paper, that has been a request. So I'll move on to the next question. Should accomplishments from prior support include all involved agencies, or how far back?
Erica, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I was literally just dropping that in the chat right now. So accomplishments from prior federal support, that information can be found on the NOFO at the bottom of page 19. It is for federal funding received in the past 5 years for relevant research. And you just need to report on the one award that is most closely related to this proposal for each PI and co-PI. So if you have 5, PIs and co-PIs, that would be 5 awards within the last 5 years that are relevant to this research.
Great, and I will send that answer out, the written answer out as well. Next question is, what is the earliest and latest start date for the awarded projects? Which is also in the NOFO, but that's a great question.
The start date for these projects will be September 1st of 2023.
Great. I'm typing. Is there a mandate to publish in open access journals?
We did not clarify that. So not currently or mandate.
So while there isn't a mandate to publish in open access journals, based on PAR or the public access to research results, there is a mandate for sharing your pre-publications if it's not in a publicly accessible journal. And if your award is accepted, that is something that your program manager will be working with you on as your publications come up.
Great. I will answer that verbally as soon as we get the next question rolling. Yes, can you send the link again for the building partnerships form? We can drop that in the chat. Do that in just a second here. And can you please explain again when the MRV component is needed? Maybe
I'm not sure who was planning to answer that. I would say whenever there's a field component where you're actually testing a new mCDR approach, not a new but an mCDR approach in the field, there needs to be an MRV component.
Libby, may I make a comment there?
Yeah.
So Libby is correct. I mean, whenever a test is done, you'd want to evaluate whether it worked or not, or how effective it was. But you know, while there are technologies today to perform the MRV, the reason why we would like to sort of leverage the RPE program here as well is that there is the potential.
He just cut out a little bit, at least for me. Maybe wait for him to come back.
Simon, we can't hear you if you're talking. Are you there?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Just to summarize, while MRV is needed, there's the possibility for a lot more funding separate to this available for MRV technology development. And if you look at the information I provided in the slide, there's more detail there. I'm happy to tag up later on to answer your questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Simon. Okay. Would there be a disadvantage if we...
Simon, while we're talking about ARPA-E, there's another question in the Q&A about the total amount of grant funding for the ARPA-E call. Has that been announced yet?
It hasn't been publicly announced, but I will say that in general, ARPA-E programs are between $30 to $50 million, and the period of performance is about 3 years. Of course, projects get plussed up as success comes forth, so it's kind of a fluid number, but it is a significant amount of money for what we think is going to be a fairly expensive endeavor to develop these kinds of transformative new technologies.
Thanks, Simon. And Gabby, just want to flag for you that attendees are not allowed, they can't see the questions. So even though we've answered other questions, you might want to just go through and read the ones that we've already answered in the chat so that all attendees can benefit from that. Okay, we'll answer new questions for another 5 minutes or so, and then go to the ones that have been answered so that all attendees can hear those answers. One question about eligibility are the funding offices, so OAP, GOMO, IUSE, FECM, WPTO, the Office of Naval Research, etc., ineligible to be part of teams submitting proposals. Do you mean the program managers? I guess maybe, Sarah, if you could clarify your question. The program managers would be ineligible for applying for funding, but the researchers supported under those programs are encouraged to apply to this call.
Erica, can feds receive salary support?
There's no restriction on salary for feds in this NOFO. Thank you, Erica. There's a company from industry. If our company already has a solution and does not require funding but needs assistance with permitting, may this program assist them in the permitting process?
So this is Libby from OAP. I'm not really sure what your question is. This is not, we're all moving forward together in the permitting process. We can assist where we can, but it's not as if we have the answers either ourselves. So I'm not really sure what to suggest. I think the intent is to be moving research forward, and also pushing the envelope to see how the permitting process is going to work. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my answer.
Great. All right, let's take a look at. For me, the answered questions and unanswered questions do not look any different. So I don't know if Erica or Jess, if you want to read out the ones that you've already answered, or I can keep going with the unanswered questions. Okay, so would there be a disadvantage if we only focused on one of the research priorities, not multiples? Maybe Jessica, you can answer this one.
Sorry, Gabby, I was in the middle of writing another answer.
Sorry, okay, no worries.
Can you repeat the question for me?
Yeah, would there be a disadvantage?
No, I can answer it. You have to answer to at least one of the priorities. That is what the NOFO says. And I can read out some of these other questions that were further up, if that would be helpful. So one question was, are there links to projects from prior solicitations from this program? And we said, no, this is the first year of the program. We have, can this call fund foreign collaborators? This call cannot directly fund foreign collaborators, but institutions that receive funding through successful proposals in this program may transfer funding. This is known as secondary or indirect support. Foreign collaborators may not receive direct support. What is the policy regarding PI submitting multiple proposals and or being included as a funded PI in multiple proposal submissions? There are no limits listed in the NOFO. However, the program manager suggests keeping in mind the number of proposals we anticipate funding, 10 to 20, and being reasonable with the promising of your time. Let's see, did you say the funds are distributed all at once at inception? Yes, that's the plan. The funds for this project will be distributed in the first year. Multiple, okay. Is there a range of funding dollars for this? Yes, 100,000 to 2 million. And then I think we're kind of where you were. Okay, you can go back to if there are any other questions.
Thanks, Abby. That was great. How far along does the technology need to be? Idea stage, okay?
I'll come off mute to offer that this is a highly applied call, and the goal is not necessarily with this call to fund basic research, but to fund research applications. If you feel that your technology is capable of meeting the research priorities that are listed in the NOFO, we encourage you to apply.
Sounds great. Okay. We have questions about intellectual property. So industry partners are often interested in retaining IP. Does this opportunity have specific policies about IP, or does this opportunity use some default federal award language about IP that you can refer us to? And Erica, I might put you on the line with that one because I know that you worked on this. Otherwise, I'm happy.
Yeah, there's some standard award conditions for all grants. This would go out as a grant or a cooperative agreement. And for all grants, there's standard language at the very end of the NOFO. It's actually, I think, on the last page, 32, on intellectual property. And it states the rights to any other work or intangible property produced under or acquired under a federal award are determined under this 2 CFR 200, which is the overriding federal language. The non-federal entity owns any work produced or purchased under the federal award subject to their DOC's terms. However, the government has authorized use for use and publishing for government purposes. So the language on intellectual property is in there, is at the very end. And for more details on the Department of Commerce's standard terms, there is a link to that document as well for those working with corporations and who are interested in the IP question.
Thank you, Erica. Okay, we have questions about invoicing. If an applicant receives a grant or is successful in a proposal, will the applicant receive money on September 1st or in response to invoices during the period of the grant?
So it would be the award would start on September 1st, and you would not then have the full amount at that time. You would then spend down appropriately over the period of the award.
All right. I will finish typing the response to that one as soon as I can. Okay. Monitoring systems will need to meet not only MRV requirements, but also resource management requirements regarding effects on ecologically important seawater parameters. How is that being covered here, and how would work focusing on this aspect of monitoring be weighted in the evaluation?
I think you need to read that one again.
Yeah, the big one. Okay.
And it's likely that I mean, something as detailed as that is likely we're not going to have an answer for you. That's not our role right now.
Agreed.
But let's hear it again.
Okay. Monitoring systems will need to meet not only MRV requirements, but also resource management requirements regarding effects on ecologically important seawater parameters. How is that being covered here, and how would work focusing on this aspect of monitoring be weighted in evaluation?
Well, I would say the environmental, like all of that was just discussed, is kind of one component of a full proposal. This project, well, I shouldn't wade too deep because it depends on how you put the proposal together. I suppose something could be focused on the environmental monitoring as an aspect of mCDR, but I think you should think more about, whoever it is, think more about what you're proposing and look at the priorities and see how it dovetails with that.
Yeah, and we have a comment from our partners saying, taking a closer look at the priorities, specifically potentially priority 6 in this NOFO and the National Academy's report might help you in crafting your proposal and your response there. Okay. Do we have any other answered questions that were more recently answered in the chat that I can't see that you all would want to share with other participants?
So there was one, what do you exactly mean with, quote, proposals not funded in the current fiscal period may be considered for funding in the next fiscal period without NOAA or NOPP repeating the competitive process outlined in this announcement, close parentheses, and or close quotes. The answer is projects not selected this year may be selected next year if funds become available. So it gives us an opportunity if more funds become available that we could choose projects that are next in line to be funded. That, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other answered questions in the chat that we want to cover? Otherwise, I can ask another that has yet to be answered. Okay. So this question does relate to IP again, which I believe that part of the question has been answered, but I'll repeat it. And the first part is, what, if anything, does a commercial partner need to provide, and how might their concerns about IP best be handled? Again, we encourage you to check out the IP concerns on page 32 of the Notice of Federal Funding Opportunity. But for the first part of that question, what does a commercial partner need to provide? I have an answer for that.
Erica, did you want to provide? Yeah.
Sure. I was going to just say that I think that that's up to each partnership, right? These are partnerships between a corporation or business or federal government, or all the different entities listed, and what each partner brings to the table depends on how that proposal is crafted. So that's up to you guys.
Great. Okay. We will wait a moment in case anybody has a lingering question. If not, I believe we can close this session of the webinar. And we, again, I'll go back to the QR codes. We'll be posting this opportunity on both this webinar on the NOAA OAP YouTube channel, and then we will use your questions asked here along with those that come in through email if they're general questions, to formulate a frequently asked questions page on NOAA OAP's website under this funding opportunity. Thank you all for joining today, and we wish you luck in your application process.